Hello, 6th graders. Welcome to lesson 5.3. Write fractions and decimals as percents. So this video is going to be divided into two parts. One, converting all decimals into percentages, and then fractions and percentages. Again, percentages are all out of 100. So the way to convert a decimal to a percent is to multiply it by 100. And I can multiply it by 100 this way, but that just is not the most efficient way. I know that whenever I multiply a decimal by 100, or a whole number, the decimal moves to the right. So if I multiply this 524 thousandths by 100, I know there are two zeros in 100, so my decimal moves 2 times to the right. So now my percentage is 52 and 4/10%. So wherever that decimal is where it stays, and then you add a percent sign at the end of it. Same thing here, multiply it by 100, move the decimal twice, once, twice, now it goes there, and you can put a placeholder 0 in that place value. So now 7/10 is the same as 70%. I have a few more examples. Again, we're going to be multiplying each one of these by 100. So move the decimal twice to the right. 1, 2, and place it. That becomes 2%. 1, 2, place it. Ooh, that was sloppy. That becomes 0.9% or 9/10%. 1, 2, 4.13%, and 1, 2, that equals to 234%. And I can tell that that's reasonable because if I have the number 2 and 34 hundredths, I know that this is the whole number, so I know that I'll have 2 hundredths to start off with my percent. Alright, so not so bad. So anytime you see this, just simply think multiply it by 100 and move it twice to the right. Fractions is not as simple as moving it to the right, but we can make equivalent fractions to 100. So for example, number 7, I have 11/20. I know that I can convert this into denominator of 100 by multiplying times 5 and doing both to my numerator and denominator. And I get 55 over 100, which is the same as 55%. For number 8, I can't change these 40ths into hundredths, and I can't divide by anything by the numerator and the denominator to make it another number to make it equivalent to 100. So for this, I must change this into a decimal first. And the way to do that is to divide your numerator by your denominator. So 40, see what that looks like. Going into 3 is our numerator. Can't do that. Add a decimal and a 0. Still can't do that. So let's add another 0. Oops, sorry, I should put not an X, but a 0 and another 0. Alright, now 40 into 300. Let's think 4 into 30. That's 7 times, that's 280. You get 20. 40 can go into 20, add a 0, bring it down. 40 can go into 200 5 times, and even 200. So 3/40 is equivalent to 7.5%. Alright, last 3 examples. Number 9, change this into hundredths. Times 4 times 4, and you get 24 hundredths, which is equivalent to 24%. For this next one, we don't even really need to change it to hundredths, but just for showing purposes, times 10 times 10, that's 30. This time I'm going to change it to a decimal. So 0.30 times 100, you get 30%. Alright, now this last example is very similar to our previous last example, where we have a fraction that's greater than 1 whole, which means my percentage is going to be more than 100%, because I'm already starting off with 1 whole. So I'm going to ignore that for the time being, that 1 whole. Now 11/16 can't change it into hundredths, and can't divide it by anything to then convert it to 100ths. So now I got to simply divide my numerator by my denominator. So let's make some room over here. 16 can't go into 11, so add a decimal and a 0. I do not know my 16 facts, so let's round 16 to 20 and see how many times I can get 20 into 110. Maybe 5 or 6. Let's see what we get. That's 30, and that's 80. Oh, I can squeeze one more group, so I'm going to make that 5 a 6. 6 times 6 is 36. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Alright, so now I get 14. 16, of course, can't go into 14. Add a 0, bring it down. Oop, I might run out of room. And 16, again, let's round that to 20. 20 can go into 147 times. Oops, I forgot to put my decimal. But I was off the last time, so let me try an 8. Hopefully I get it right. 8 times 6 is 48. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12. Oh yeah, okay. So make that a 3, 10, that's 2, 1, okay. Alright, so I've done some editing here. I've shrunken down my long division. I moved up to 30%. So, alright, now we're back to 12. Bring down my 0. 8 was too big, that's 128, so I'm going to try 7. So 7 times 6 is 42. Oops. Carry the 4. And that'll be 11. Wait, that's not right. It's 8, not 80. Now it's 80. I know on the first time I did 6 times 16 was 96. So then I'm going to do 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry the 3. It's 80. Alright. So now this is equivalent to decimal. Make sure we keep that 1 whole. And then add in those numbers. 6, 8, 7, 5. Then finally, to make it into a percent, multiply by 100. 1, 2. And you get 168.75% as your final answer. Alright, here are your practice problems. For numbers 1 and 2, you need to write the number in the 2 other forms, so a fraction, decimal, percent. And if you are writing it as a fraction, please make sure it's in simplest form. Alright, enjoy the rest of your day.